you guys have been together for a good few seasons now. I imagine you're pretty close, particularly being on location together.
Yeah.
We'll become good friends.
There's hesitation, but
there was a pause. It wasn't meant.
We were amazingly close. Yeah, really incredible atmosphere on set and between us all, and we're all on a WhatsApp group together, which I don't think we'll ever leave.
No.
And we're very close.
I think the public are genuinely quite intrigued to see WhatsApp groups between public figures. I think we would love to see what those conversations
We
are.
get like a screenshot every now and then.
It's
remarkably banal.
Yeah.
It's not really interesting at all. It's mainly like, which pub are we going to?
Yeah. Or someone says a random thing and says, Claire, please don't ghost.
Yeah, Claire's
It's such a big group.
I respond to everybody.
Yeah, sometimes you can send something.
I don't really have a life. I'm sitting here with my baby responding to WhatsApp messages.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I try and play it cool for a while because I don't want to be the guy that's always replying.
No, I don't even do that. I
It's
exactly
my
when the
position. It's a very important place to be. We would all be really heartbroken if Claire didn't respond to it.
Especially seeing that 8 people have read your message.
Yeah,
You put yourself out there.
That's the stinger, really, but Claire Cox would
problem.
never let you down.
Yeah, I don't even look at who's read it just in case that heartbreaking moment. Everyone who's read that. It's been an hour.
Don't do it to yourself.
Few shows have a cast as large as this that's in every episode in the same vicinity. So, Game of Thrones, very large cast, but everyone's quite disparate and around the world almost. But you guys all tend to work in the same area. Is that a challenge? Do you enjoy working with such a huge variety of people?
I mean, it's a challenge. I think on the days when there is everyone on set, things take a long time. In that way, it's a challenge. But I think they're always the funnest days that we have because we play games. While cameras being set up and lighting's being changed and things like that. Like you'll have a game of keepy uppy going, or like people playing chess, or just standing around and drinking.
Who was playing chess? You're fancy. They're playing dominoes. They're playing dominoes. They're not that fancy, That's the weird thing, because of the way that the settlement is laid out. Like you're right, it is quite small geographically. We are sitting on top of one another, but we all kind of, I don't know about you guys, we psychologically feel like we have our own little patches. Like I'm in the pub, and you're in your house, and then Chris is in the apothecary, and everyone kind of. So when we do get the chance for all 18 of us to be together, it's like Mufti Day. Like it's like everyone goes a bit more happy, goes a bit mad, and they can't really get us to do any work.
Right.
Especially if you haven't had it in a while, because the way we were filming, you do an episode or 2 episodes in a block, and you'll film in the different locations. So we might have a week in Jamestown proper, then a week in the Flowerdew 100, then a week in the Sharon 100. So usually, I think it does usually start with the Jamestown block, which will be lots of the group scenes. So if you then have the 3 weeks going to the other locations, when it's another 2 episodes and you're back in Jamestown, especially if Naomi hasn't organised a group dinner as social secretary, it then can feel, it is like Mufti Day. You suddenly realise, oh gosh, it's actually been such a long time since we've all been in the green room, and we need more chairs, and guys, pass the grapes around. What have you been up to recently? So it's nice then when you do get those moments, probably logistically for second ADs and the production team, just getting everyone together for 45 seconds.
And getting us to focus and behave ourselves. Like, everybody,
That's a really interesting point. If you've all been hanging out together and having a laugh, to then get back in the moment, to get into the mindset of somebody from 200-300 years ago, that's got to be tricky, right?
Who hates the person who you've just been 5 minutes ago, having a crack within the green room,
It does remind you as well when you're all together that, because you always have your storylines with certain people, your main storylines, and then when you're all together, it does remind you, I do have subtle interactions with that character, or I have an issue with that character, and it's really lovely for that too, because in a way, yes, we have a wonderful laugh and we do corpse and we're giggling a lot, but we also kind of have these kind of hook-ins quite quickly to what's going on with our characters, don't we? To our relationships.
Yeah, I think it's kind of almost been created by each other. We're also supportive of each other, I'd say. But it is hard in a way, but actually it's made easier by the people around you. So the more people you've got, the more support networks you have to click into whatever kind of feeling or emotion that you need to be.
Do you ever get told off though?
Oh yeah.
Messing around. Who's the naughtiest on set then?
Oh, good question.
The person who is the naughtiest but is such a chancer that he gets away with it more than anyone else's bets are.
Yes.
Like he will be trolling, but like nobody will know apart from us. So he's a toxic combination of very much a messer, but also very good at hiding it.
Yeah.
He gets away with it.
Full laughter to complete stone face in a second.
And then everyone else is.
If we're on set, I feel like Stevie Wads can make me.
Yeah.
Steve Waddington can make me break.
Yeah.
A moment.
Steve also has this annoying. He will buy. He buys from a field a really long stick with a little fluffy end. You know those kind of like reed sticks that have the
dry.
And he will always get one in the group scene, and then just every now and then just tickle someone, and you see people going like that, and it doesn't sound funny, but it is. I promise it is.
And also very professional. We are all very professional, and yes.
It doesn't sound like hard work to me right now. I've got to admit, I should find some questions to pick up how hard you guys work.
You need the respite. I think there are, especially in this season, there are some really poignant, powerful group moments with one character deciding that this isn't the way things are going to go, or this isn't the way things are going to be, or new relationships in the town hall, because that's where a lot of the jurisdiction happens, a lot of laws are made and broken, and so it's actually, I find it really interesting. I think it's a beautiful thing about being an actor, having the opportunity to pick, and you have to quickly change from your down periods to being up, because the scene that you're filming might actually only be like 30 seconds, so to really be in it for the 2 hours before, depending on the actor, but I feel like for the majority it doesn't like serve the scene, and then you do have, I often find, because they do go quicker when you have the more intimate moments with one other character, you are doing something really challenging and doing it more often, because there's only two of you and you've done the scene, so you might get more of a chance to do it. So really having those group moments where there are so many of you, so as the collective understanding means that also you can say cut. Now there's a collective understanding
You can let off steam.
to let off steam.
Because it is, it's hot and hard out. It's a push physically and mentally filming in a country that's sometimes has 40 to 42 degree heat waves, and you're in a corset and capes and hats and all the rest of it. And I think it's needed to enjoy yourself a little bit while you're doing it.
I feel like we've successfully addressed the balance to how hard you guys work.
We are very serious.
Well
Bring it back.
I can see why they hired you. I heard a rumour it's the final season. Is that true?
Yes.
I mean,
Factual rumour.
It's a bit of a cliche question, but how are you feeling about that? It must be tough to say goodbye to everybody and move on.
Yeah, definitely. We don't really say goodbye to each other as people. We hang out quite a lot and we get a lot. We're all still really good friends and keeping in contact with each other. So thankfully we have that. But I think we're all a bit heartbroken to say goodbye to it as a job and Budapest as a place and the set and just how magical it was. But I think we're all pretty. I'm sorry, I'm just speaking.
No, we feel really blessed that we had three.
That we had three.
That we were able to tell all the stories, all the character stories, weren't we? Over 3 seasons. We feel really blessed.
Yes.
So I suppose. So feelings. You don't feel too sad. You just will miss. Being together in that way.
From a storytelling perspective, you'll get the resolutions you were hoping for.
Oh, I think it's just like real life. You get some resolutions you were hoping for, and you don't get others. Yeah. It's it's grey, isn't it? And ambiguous, and people have these really complex journeys, and these complex journeys with each other, and these surprising journeys. Again, it's really lovely because certain characters get introduced to each other more. I have this really great sort of interaction with Chakro when I'm trying to teach him to convert to Christianity, and that's a really surprising interaction. So That takes temperance to a really interesting place. So it's not a resolution she was expecting, but it's an interesting journey, and a really interesting journey, and an intimacy with Maria as well.
I think when you think about, you have to look at the series rather as what has happened, and rather than what's going to happen, because it is a period of history that that did exist, and so you're following the journey of characters that, for the most part, do actually, like, there was a temperance flower doing it's expanding and uncovering what that story is, and so even though it is the last season, series, it's the end of the show. There are so many lessons to be learned in the 3 seasons that you did see, and so much foreboding as well at the same time.
You touched on a subject there that I find really interesting about dramas set around real events or real timelines. What kind of responsibility do you guys think you have for telling true stories compared to telling dramatisations and something that could be a little bit more melodramatic? The reason I asked that is I know nothing about that period. I'd learned very little at school. They just didn't teach colonialism at school or anything like that. So a lot of my exposure to stories like this comes from drama. And yet, if you're not how factually correct do you have to be with something like this? Do you feel any responsibility towards that?
I think I was just saying there are a lot of strands and parts and people involved in that question. As actors, we have to find the truth in our character, in the scene, in that moment, and that is informed by truth and authenticity in the costumes, and amplified by that, and truth and authenticity in the way that the location is made, and then searching for the true facts of history in our own research. And I think there will naturally be elements that we don't have access to because they're not there. And I'm sure this is on so many different levels, but coming from a personal and say a more character-driven perspective, I think it's often dangerous to say that, this is, i.e. how someone would/should have acted in a specific time, because we are just not aware of the human capabilities in any situation until that situation arises. And so as an actor I do feel a responsibility to connect deeply enough to a character that when I read a text I trust the decision that I'm making in the way that a character will do a certain action or have a certain relationship.
And it will be in context to what you read. Of course, we'll read in and around the subject. So you read about the history, and you read about what they wear, what they would have eaten. For me, I'm very much a woman of the time, so I would have lived in this very patriarchal society. I was incredibly religious, devoted to my husband. Everything that he says is correct. Devoted to the king. I would have felt powerless. I wouldn't have had, there's all sorts of, historically, you would read around the subject and then you would place your character in that context with all those restrictions, either restrictions or freedoms, and learning that people could commit quite a minor crime maybe and be hung for it, or just what was going on in London at that time would have come to Jamestown. And so that's what you do really, to put yourself into that time. You just read around it, you just read around the subject.
And it is like it's a responsibility when you're dealing with something that's true, but also like a privilege, because there might be people who have never experienced this part of history, and if you don't, I think humans respond to stories rather than facts. We like stories, we like hearing them, that's how we like learning about things. And there is a danger, unless you show this kind of thing, that things can be romanticized, and that there is this myth that the Pilgrims came to America and it was all very, and they exchanged turkeys and everything was kind of wonderful, and unless you show the kind of brutal, bloody truth of something like that, we're not making a documentary, but there is a truth, there is a kind of a universal truth in like relationships and how humans interact with each other, and to get the chance to show that in a way that is not sugar-coated, in a way that is ugly and visceral and kind of real, is important, I think.
Yeah. And going on to that privilege thing as well, I think being female, as we all are, doing this show, because we all read when we first got the jobs, and we all read books and accounts and everything like that, but obviously naturally history is biased towards the male perspective, but being given the gift of being women in that time was quite freeing in a sense. We had what we could relate to in terms of what was written down on the script and trying to figure out what that is, but also giving these women personality, and I think that's really important as well, is hearing different sides of stories to every aspect of history, which is what was so great and so, at the beginning anyway, so appealing about the show, giving someone else a chance to say their thing. Yeah.
Okay, just to wrap up, what are you watching right now? What would you recommend?
Always not RuPaul's Drag Race. We don't talk about anything else with each other. We just compare notes to RuPaul's Drag Race. I started. I've almost finished The Umbrella Academy. So good. And it's on Netflix. It's like adapted from a comic book, like superheroes. Yeah. Like 37 people came up to me and were like, "You need to be watching this show," and they were correct. It's great. Umbrella Academy.
Yeah. I'm in. Yeah.
Oh, I've been watching Marie Kondo Tidy.
Also great.
Also very important.
She's a goddess.
That's my
should all read
show.
Yes. Great.
That's really helped. Yeah. That's been good.
And nursery rhymes. And lots of nursery rhymes.
I love nursery rhymes.
Educational stuff.
I'm bad. I don't watch a lot of TV. So I'm fishing. I watched A Private War on the plane.
You've been reading, right? You've just been every time I speak to you, you're reading a book.
Okay, one's gonna come into my head. One that I watched recently was called.
She's making it up.
This is embarrassing.
She hasn't seen any movies.
we can edit here.
Who's in it?
What's it about?
Who's in the TV show?
Who's in that TV show that I saw? What media platform? Netflix, Amazon, BBC,
Okay,
Sky?
here's one. Got it. I watched the first episode of Fleabag.
Yes!
Well done.
Whew, something came, and that was really good. I need to watch.
Excited then for you.
No, when I was really, something really had to come up, and it was fantastic. I went to actually a screening at BFI, and I loved that Phoebe Waller-Bridge put religion into it in the way that religion was put into it, because it was like a conversation that sort of in this time I think needs to be had in the sense of what people believe in, and believing in nothing is believing in something. It's believing in nothing. So I'm excited to watch the rest of that. Okay.
Good stuff. Thank you all so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey